Old soul, young world.
Old souls, young souls, and all my damn souls in between. Welcome back to another week of Old Soul in the Young World with your host, Jesse Ellie. Hey! Guys, it is super lit in the studio this week. It is poppin'. We have somebody who is a stand-up comedian who has their own podcast, who gets a little bucked up sometimes. Y'all might know him from around the way. Welcome to the show and thanks for being here, Sam Buck from Bucked Up.
Thank you so much for having me. Hey. I was so nervous that champagne was going to explode on your laptop.
I saw your face. Like, if I could have zoomed in, you were cringing. And I was like, please don't let this
explode. It's like watching two cars almost crash into each other.
Every show, pretty much, that's how I start. Just, either the car's going to crash or it's going to go great. So
that's why I don't drink coffee anymore. You
don't drink coffee?
I spilled coffee on my laptop when I was in high school, and I'd have just a vendetta. I have a vendetta against coffee.
Did your laptop completely die?
I lost everything.
Oh, that's so sad.
It was horrible.
And were you podcasting back then?
No.
Your shit got?
No, I was doing nothing important.
Oh, that's good at least. So, Sam, I will give you the chance. I know I gave you a little bit of an intro, but just to tell the people kind of who the hell you are, where you're from, what you're about.
I'm a stand-up comedian. I was born on Cape Cod.
Okay.
But I just moved all around Massachusetts.
Gotcha.
And I have a podcast. I feel like I have a podcast where I interview rappers about their feelings. That's basically what it is.
We love that.
Bucked Up. It's crazy. It's so funny because I podcast a lot. And this is such a beautiful setup that I'm nervous sitting here.
Don't be nervous.
But this is so nice.
I feel
nervous.
Like this is Well, I feel like we talked about this on the phone too, which it's pretty dope, having another podcaster come on who you can relate. And we kind of, if you've never seen Bucked Up, we're both self-help motivational podcasts, but two completely different lanes, two completely different setups. Sam travels.
Yeah, you have your shit together.
You have your shit together. It's just different shit, really, But it's I get nervous no matter what. Every time, even when I called you the other day, I think I said to you, I was I don't know why I was nervous to call you. And we already met each other at
I was on a bike ride. I was so nervous. I was I'm just going to go for a bike ride. I don't care.
You're I'm just chilling. I'm just riding my bike. I was oh shit, you busy? You're no, this is perfect time, actually.
I ate shit on the bike while we were talking, that would have been the best.
That would have been amazing. But you kind of travel, you do a lot of things. And like I said, from Bucked Up to stand-up comedy, what was your first baby? Was it Bucked Up first or just Sam Buck?
Always, when I was 16, I got in a bad hockey accident trying to impress a girl, doing dumb shit.
Of course.
And I had to lay in a dark room for a month because of the concussion I got.
Wow.
I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't go outside. I had to take medical leave from school. And all I could do was listen to people talk. My neighbor was have you heard this thing called podcasts? And I just started listening to stand-up comedians' podcasts.
Yeah.
And after that month, my life was that's what I'm dedicated to.
Wow.
But I was too nervous to do it. So I would do improv. So I started improv at that time.
Which I feel improv, people get more nervous to do because it's not practiced. It has to be kind of
with other people.
That's a good point.
I also was 16 and I didn't feel I had anything to talk about in life.
Yeah.
I started comedy seriously when I was a senior in college. I had done it beforehand, but when I mean serious, I was a senior in college. And it's because I had finally had experience to talk about. I had gone through, different phases. I had learned life. I had actually gotten. So when I started, I was finally I have
your material.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who wants to hear a 16-year-old talking about I don't know, I had a full ride to an international high school.
What?
So I was with the richest people in the entire world. And no one wants to hear a 17-year-old talk about that on stage, kind of, because it's now I can look back and say it's funny, but then it would come across as braggadocious, I feel.
No, I see what you mean. It's just crazy to me too, because I feel Not that like you're shy, but when we first met, like I feel like we were both a little bit like shy, and I was like, "What does this guy do? Like he must be in the cannabis industry. Maybe he's like a salesperson or like whatever." And then you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm a comedian. I have a podcast." And I was like, "Oh really?" Like
I think that's what it is. Like I feel like comedians and podcasters aren't good talkers or aren't funny. I have this weird idea, and maybe it's just because like I'm hard on myself, but it's like if you really want to pursue something, it's because you don't think you're good enough at it and you want to be the best at it.
That's fun.
So like,
so true.
so I'm not a good talker at all. So I wanted to be able to learn how to conversate, and now I've been able to talk to people I look up to.
Right.
And I'm more nervous talking to them off camera than on camera. Like
Right.
I just have been able to develop a skill that I don't think I had developed before.
And I definitely connect with you there because, like, I don't know, people who watch my podcast, they might not even be able to tell, but like, I'm a super introvert. Like, it takes, like, outside of like podcast, Jesse, like, I use this as a forced communicate. Like, I needed to start communicating. I had things to say, I had a message to give, didn't know how to get it out there. So I was like, well, I have to start talking about it somehow. Same thing kind of as you.
Yeah.
My friend was like, oh, here's Blog Talk Radio. I didn't even know what Blog Talk Radio was. So kind of similar to improv, it was like a live radio station that I could do my podcast on, quote unquote, and people could literally call in. Like it was like a live, like I would get out of work at 6, I would do a 7 to 8 Blog Talk Radio show, and like I had like fucking 3 listeners. Like I was just like, but I needed to talk.
And you kept doing it.
And I kept doing it, and I stayed consistent, and then I learned like, even though still to this day, like being on the podcast with you, I get nervous and I get anxious. This is the streamline of my communication. And it's like, this platform helped me grow so much within myself, that outside of that, then it like rolls into other aspects of your life kind of.
Yeah, like it's funny because you were saying 3 listeners. I was talking to my friend about this last night. He's like, how do you like keep going when you want to give up, honestly? And he's an EMT. So I was like, how do you stay being an EMT? He's like, I don't quit and I don't get fired.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, well then take that and make yourself the boss of it. If you want to do something, you just don't quit at it.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't get to be the big, not everyone's fucking Drake.
Right.
Not everyone's fucking Kevin Hart. You know what I mean?
100%.
But like, you're going to carve out your own niche in it, and you are going to make it if you keep doing it. Like, I had a 6-month period where probably 20 people listened to each episode.
Exactly.
And it's like, I wasn't doing it for anyone other than me. Like, even now,
That's fun.
I have so many guests lined up for this week that are so like opposite of who I normally interview. I'm not going to get a ton of listeners on those, but they're people I wanted to talk to so bad.
Yes.
So like, I'm just going to do that.
And I love that because it's not like always the point, and it's different. Like we were talking about, when you start something that you love, like it's just like an art or a therapy to you or something you can like express yourself through, but then it kind of becomes like a business, and then you kind of have to figure out like the balance between it. But the most important thing is, do you love it? Do you love your business? Do you love what you're doing? Do you love the time, the effort that it takes to put into that? Because running a podcast, and especially like yours, when we were talking on the phone the other day, this dude's driving to Philly, and then I found out when he comes here today, he drove to Philly, and then he drove to New York, and then he drove back to Philly, I think. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, can you express that to the viewers listening in, how much it takes from you to keep this running and to keep it going?
Yeah, well, you have to love it 100%, but you don't have to love it that much in the beginning. It's like a relationship. If you meet someone right off the bat and you really like them, of course you're going to keep it going. But if you go, I love you more than anything right off the bat, it's going to be like, that's not going to work out.
Whoa.
Like I started the podcast talking to open mic comedians. Again, I went through a breakup right before quarantine.
Quarantine really just got everyone.
2 weeks before quarantine. And the chick was like, you need to get your life together. You're like, you're not doing it.
Look at us now, girl.
Well, she was right. And so I started the podcast talking to open mic comedians about how they were going to get their life together during quarantine.
Wow.
Like that was literally what it was about. Nothing with music, nothing. It was self-help, just trying to like better myself. And then I DJ Muggs, who
Yes.
we met at a DJ Muggs of Cypress Hill event.
Yes.
My second rap interview ever, I got to debut a DJ Muggs album on it.
What?
It was like probably episode 18,
That's
16.
How did you get that connect with DJ Muggs?
So there's this dude, Hologram, who came up with Action Bronson. He's Mayhem Loren's brother.
Yep.
He has no other interviews with me, and I think he only said yes because my podcast was so small that he's like,
no one's gonna see this."
Literally, I think that's why he did it, because he hasn't done an interview since. And his debut album was produced by DJ Muggs, and he announced it on the podcast.
Oh, did you know, like going in, that was gonna happen?
No, my friend Freshman Woes, who was my first rap guest, had told me, hey, Hologram might be having his debut album produced by DJ Muggs, but I didn't know about it. It wasn't serious. And he did that. And that feeling of I love these guys and I just got to do that. That made me fall in love.
Right.
That's that point in the relationship where I'm I'll say I love you.
Yeah.
And from there, it just was fuck anything else. I want to just do this. I love it so much. My dad took me to see Wu-Tang Clan when I was 12 years old.
Hey, wow, you got a cool ass dad. Shout out your
My
dad.
mom took me to see Lil Wayne when I was 12.
Okay, you got cool ass parents.
Rap is everything for me. I'm not doing this for no other reason that it's I love it as much as comedy.
Yeah.
But I'm a comedian. I'm not a rapper. You know,
and that was actually, it's kind of funny because we were talking about, you said, a lot of people don't, or when you say your show is a self-help show, or you categorize it as self-help, they're like, what the heck? It's not self-help. It's just you interviewing rappers or whatever. Literally see you in the hood. You're in hallways. You're, smoking blunts, chilling, whatever.
No
Sometimes
blunts, just joints. I'm 4 years tobacco free.
Sorry,
Stop
joints.
smoking tobacco.
Damn, you got to rub that off on me because I'm a backwoods girl.
Yeah,
all
no, I used to
day.
smoke 10 backwoods a day. I was a monster. But I'm.
Are you calling me a monster?
Yeah, you're a monster. But I'm 4 years nicotine and tobacco free completely.
out.
That's fun.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I feel I always say I feel like a smoking vegan.
I've actually been having this thought where I'm like, Jesse, you got to find some organic wraps. You got to find some papers. You got to find something to substitute.
Yeah, move
the
on to
backwoods.
hemp wraps, and then from that, just move on to papers.
Okay.
But you have to switch over with hemp wraps.
Yeah, because you understand. It's kind of
Yeah.
you got to wean yourself off. It's different.
100%,
Joints and blunts are different. If you disagree, you're wrong. Anyways.
But blunts is just a joint with a tobacco addiction added onto it. It's like smoking a cigarette and a joint at the same time.
See, because in my head, I justify it as I like the art form of rolling a blunt, but maybe it's not that. Maybe
You guys
it's
see me roll a
just-
paper. That's an art form.
Is it?
I roll ones that look like you pick it up as a cone from the dispensary.
Ooh, really?
Yeah.
How much experience do you have doing that?
Oh, I only roll joints.
Okay.
I
Okay.
just roll. I can do it.
So how many joints do you smoke a day?
Oh, it depends on the day, but a lot. I was just talking to my friend Jay about this. I had a show up in Syracuse with some Nems, Bing Bong, fuck your life.
Yeah, the dude is he from Staten Island?
Yes, Staten Island.
Yes.
I brought a girl on a first date to a strip club with him, but that's
Wait,
besides
hold
the
on.
point.
Stop the show. I need that story.
Wait, I gotta
which
tell
story are you going to do first?
I'll
Because we
tell
need
them.
both.
So I had a show with him up in Syracuse and a bunch of other rappers, 38 Special, and my friend had an ounce of shake and small nugs, and he's like, roll this all up. He was driving to the show in Syracuse. He's like, roll. So I rolled an ounce into 27 joints.
Holy shit.
And that night we smoked the whole ounce in the night, 27 joints.
Wow, that's impressive.
So I can do that, or today I've had, what time is it?
What's it's 3:33.
All right, so I've had 3 joints.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. Let's just stop really quick because I love numbers. He said, what time is it? I said 3:33. He said, yeah, 3 joints. That's 3333. That means we're on the right track. All right. Just had to interject real quick with my number segment.
I'm that with sevens. My birthday's 7/17/97. So the triple sevens is
I love that. Yeah, 777 is a good number. I'm just always about if you see numbers, I feel like it's a message. If you see it on a license plate, the time, you just happen to look at a billboard and you see this crazy number.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes it just should set something off your mind. Okay, I'm on the right trajectory forward.
I think
know
if
what
that
I mean?
does it for you, it's true. And if it doesn't, then don't shit on other. You know what I mean?
Facts.
It's like stuff
Believe
is
in
so.
what you believe in.
Stuff is so. I'm not trying to say what
No,
you're
I
saying is
love it.
placebo, but stuff is so placebo that you don't even realize it sometime. And I'm very spiritual and I believe in omens and paths. But if someone doesn't, I understand that. But it's like,
Yeah.
I get that. It's like,
But I think that's about being a good communicator too, because it's almost like I can put myself in your shoes to respect your opinion. Because if you can't respect someone else's opinion, how can you have an open conversation about anything?
Yeah.
Like, even if we disagree, we're on the same topic and disagree, we should be able to sit down and talk about it instead of being like, fuck you, you don't believe what I believe in.
Like, I've had very spiritual experiences on hallucinogens that have changed my life. But if someone doesn't believe in God, they can still enjoy hallucinogens, and I can talk to them about that experience, and I'll just remove the
And
God
there's some
aspect
people
of it.
that literally take hallucinogens to connect with God.
Yeah.
So I'm just
I
gonna.
see your
Oh, yeah, my
Buddha
Buddha.
tattoo. I through a DMT trip saw a hallucination of Buddha, and he was the one who told me to start my podcast.
Are you joking? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Sam, are you making a joke or are you being
I
serious?
swear to God.
For real?
Yeah, there's a clip that went viral recently from the podcast of me telling that story to a rapper and him getting up and walking off the podcast.
Why did you walk off?
Because he thought I was doing like heroin in his
Oh
said.
shit! You're like, I'm not a crackhead white boy. I'm serious.
I had
I
a
really
shaman.
had this.
He like didn't know what I was trying to explain to him what a shaman was. He was like, "You mean like a?"
It's just too much.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Wait, no. Before we go on, why the fuck did you bring a first date to a strip club?
With Nems.
We need to back it up.
I didn't know it was a strip club.
Lies!
And, no, I swear. All right, there's parts of the story I can't tell, and there's parts of the story I can tell. There was a reason that I thought it was just gonna be a normal nightclub.
Okay.
With Nems. I didn't know it was gonna be a strip club.
Okay.
But
Fair
still,
enough.
bringing a girl to a nightclub
On
is
a first
still
date?
a little much. But we had hung out one time before. Mm-hmm. So
Okay, that's understandable.
I was like, all right, this will just be fun. She knew who Nems was, so I
Yeah.
was like, this will just be fun.
yeah.
But it was
Then it got a little awky.
Yeah,
Then the asses came out, and she was like, "Oh shit!"
Well, it was like, it was like
like,
a
"Sam, you didn't
trashy
tell me
nightclub.
this."
Yeah, literally.
Oh my gosh, you just like when you said trashy nightclub. I've only been to a couple strip clubs, but my first experience was in Miami, and I went to a strip club called Booby Trap. So if Booby
no.
Trap says anything to you, you just brought me back. Anyways,
I've never had a good experience at strip clubs. I've
just-
probably been to like
yeah.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
And every time it's been like, and then I just like, damn, I have another story to tell on stage, but now I just seem like the strip club comedian because I have the only 3
It's
times
about
I
the
had some crazy
experience, you
shit
know?
happen. Yeah.
But that's what it is. It's really experience creates your ability to connect and to speak and to do your
Mm-hmm.
stand up or do your podcast and relate to other people. And like we said, you travel a lot, you do a lot of different, interviews, but a lot of them are kind of rap based or like underground hip hop based. And you already said you're not a rapper, but you were into rap when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
So where did it initially start off where Bucked Up went from being like, okay, I'm going to ask comedians what their life interest is to like, now I'm going to be traveling to like hoods in Brooklyn or anywhere else and doing interviews?
I think the first time I went to Buffalo, I had traveled for fun, for life, but the first time, there's Griselda, the rap group, West Side Gun, Conway the Machine, Benny the Butcher. They're like they're my favorite. Those are my 3 favorites. I've had Conway on the podcast now. I'm on a feature. I'm on a Conway song. I have like
what?
an official feature on a Conway song.
Like
He used-
a rap feature?
Yeah, he used 2 minutes of our podcast on a song of us talking like in depth, and I got an official feature from that.
Wow, that's
But
awesome.
I didn't know anything. West Side Gun was opening up a store in the height of the pandemic in Buffalo.
Wow, that's
And
tough.
I was like, I'm going to drive to Buffalo with my boy Shamil, who now still produces my podcast.
Shout out Shamil.
Shout out Shamil Kumar. Great comedian, great rapper, great artist. But I was like, let's drive up. Just go.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
I knew this guy, Struggle Mike, who I'd had on the podcast, and he was the only person in Buffalo I knew. He had a clothing and music studio, a clothing store and music studio. And so he was the only person I knew. I was like, we're just going to go up for the opening. And when I got there, people like kind of knew me from the podcast.
Okay.
And like I started getting love in Buffalo. And it was the first time I got love in a city that wasn't my own.
Damn, how does that feel? Like,
It's great. It was such a crazy feeling. And now, like, this is going to sound... I know how it's going to sound, but it really is crazy. Like, I know I have less than 5,000 followers on Instagram. I'm not...
Are you about to be conceited?
A little bit.
Ooh, be conceited, boy. You
But,
deserve
like,
it.
Every city I go, people will come up to me and recognize me. And that's crazy that 2 years ago, I was like nothing. A year ago was when I went to Buffalo the first time I ever traveled, maybe a year and a half. But it's like, you asked, the second I left my home, like I went somewhere else, everything changed.
Wow.
Everything changed. And that's why I'm not scared to drive to Philly in a night. That's why I'm not scared to drive 65,000 miles in a year, because that's the only way you're going to make it.
Facts.
How many people in your hometown are really going to listen to you? Not many, because they have past stories about you before you were this, and they have like first impressions.
A preconceived notion already.
Exactly. Who gives a fuck? You need strangers to like your shit. You need strangers all over the country to like your shit.
Right.
Like,
and I feel like with a lot of people in Boston or just in general who are podcasting or in media, like we are taught to have small mindsets, to have small goals, to have small things that we can reach for. You know what I mean? And even myself, and like I'll say this till today, like it amazes me the people you worked with and the people you've reached out to and not had that like self-doubt or that fear, because I still have to push myself to be like, go ahead, Jesse, like reach out to them. Like even if they say no, it doesn't matter, because you're still taking the risk, you're taking the chance, and it's something that you love, so you just have to do it.
You said J. Cole was your favorite rapper. He got turned down by Jay-Z 6 times before Jay-Z said yes. Jay-Z threw his CD on the ground in the like, fuck this, and he still kept doing it. That's the only way you're gonna make it. Like, that's why I have a webcam attached to my laptop. The shittiest setup. If you watch my podcast, quality, dog shit. But I would rather travel and get to make these connections that will then help me when I can actually get good quality
100%.
than the other way around.
Right, right.
So many people, someone told me, so many people have like, I don't know, hold back their stuff because of quality when no one's going to listen to it anyway. So you should just try to get like, you should just try to do whatever you want.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't matter in the end.
Right.
Like,
And we even said like, there's so many ways, like anybody listening in, anyone can be a podcaster. Anyone can be an interviewer. And I'm not just saying that like, oh, I'm going to give you the secrets, but like, seriously, you can, when I started my podcast, I started on my phone. It was not video. It was just audio. Like I said, it was a live radio show. It was a call-in radio show, on a website. Like there are options. It doesn't have to be like you're in a studio or this or that. Like you can be traveling with a webcam. You can do quality, even though you're saying like it's not quality, it's quality conversation. It is quality content because you're portraying a message that a lot of people wouldn't even take the time to like go do these interviews and highlight these people to portray their stories. And those are the stories that need to be heard. Yeah. So the fact that you're using your platform to highlight other people's stories, other people's music, like that's why the connections come, because you're doing something you love and you're putting other people who are doing something they love up there with you at the same time. So it doesn't have to be studio quality or audio quality production. Like it can be whatever it is. If you have an idea, if it's something you want to do, you want to make a show about cooking, you want to make a show about mental health, about rappers, etc.
Yeah. My boy's obsessed with anime. Obsessed. He reads anime watches it, reads it all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you love it so much, just talk for an hour about it.
Like you're pretty much an expert already.
That's all you need. Like a podcast, whatever. Just what do you do? What do you spend your time doing?
Right.
And just that's it.
And it's like creating your own lane, creating your own blueprint. Like, and I'll kind of let you go off however you want on this, but I'm sure that there's people that you grew up with who doubted you or questioned you or maybe wouldn't believe in you. And maybe if they heard your idea of bucked up before you ever started, it would be like, Sam, that's dumb. Like, it's never going to go anywhere. It'll never be anything. How do you feel like you either took that and used it to like motivate you or just in general, like the self-doubt or other people like putting negative energy into something that you want to do and it's like, I'm going to do it anyway?
I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because I need people to hear it and really think about it and how it relates to their life. The universe wants to test you. They want to see it. This is spirit. It wants to see if you really can handle it. Like it does. The day before I started my podcast, 12 of the people who I thought were my closest friends told me don't do the podcast, that it was a stupid idea, that everything, I'm not even going to go into details about why they said I shouldn't, but it was dumb reasons.
Yeah.
And none of them are doing, like, I'm not even going to say that. Like, I did it. And
they're not fulfilling their purposes.
If you look at like where I am versus them, they should have just supported. Right. Because I'll help anyone out if they're nice. Like
if you're genuine.
Yeah, well, if you're trying to hold someone else back, you're holding yourself back. Like I don't have time to tell you not to do something because I'm so stressed about the 100 things I have to do.
Exactly. But that's everyone's problems nowadays. We're so busy worried about what everyone else is doing or putting someone else down. Like that person's going to get ahead of me or like, oh, like I feel like people who like that, like if you tell someone, this is what I want to do, this is what I believe in, this is what I love, and they're your true, genuine people, and they're telling you not to do it, that just shows me there's something within them that is not fulfilled yet, a purpose that has not been put to the forefront, because when you find something you love enough that you want to put your time, effort, and free energy into that or make it a career, that's something that a lot of people in this lifetime will never get to because mentally they tell themselves they can't. Mentally, they hold themselves back. And we all have that struggle. We all struggle, I think, is the thing in common between humanity. But it's like, how do you use that struggle to push past and succeed?
We were on the phone. I was like, man, I've been feeling depressed the past 2 months.
Yes.
I told you that.
Yeah, straight up.
And that was before I went to Philly. That was the day before I went to Philly. I get to Philly, have a great time. There's a painting of me in a gallery. Like,
wait, what? You say things so casual. Who painted a picture of you in a gallery?
This face is from Australia, and he was doing a tour of his art through America, and he had a painting of me. And I drove down to Philly to get the painting.
That's amazing.
To get the painting. So I got it, and that was amazing. That was such a fulfilled moment. And then I got an offer to go to the JID party.
Yes!
And a part of me, and this comes back around, a part of me was like, but there's a chance I couldn't get in. I just drove to Philly. Do I really want to drive to New York? Like, even if the chance I don't get in? And I drove to New York and I got in, and it was an amazing night. But that was like, just take the chance, because if I didn't get in, I'd be at the same place as if I didn't even try.
Exactly.
And I did try, and I did get in.
Right.
It's you. Everything is you hold yourself back. And depression and anxiety is you telling yourself no over and over again until you don't believe that you can say yes to yourself.
Right.
Like, that's really what it is. Like, when I'm anxious, it's because I'm like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I don't have time for that. Oh, and I say that so much that I just have this stockpile of shit that I can't do.
Yep.
And instead, if I just said yes to everything, you just said, if you have to get an oil change right there.
Right.
That moment, if you want to work out, I took the bike ride. I wanted to ride a bike. I did it right then.
Yes.
Like, if I said no, then I'm just going to be thinking, should I have gone on that bike ride? That have happened.
Right.
If I didn't get into that party, I would have been like, well, what if I did get in?
Exactly. And that's almost how I am as well. And it's like, I had to learn through the hardships of like the times that I did say no or the times that I didn't go. And then those opportunities and the chances that I realized I missed out on, opposed to the times when I took that risk, I took that chance, I made it happen. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I already did 2 interviews today, but I got invited to an event tonight, went to that event, met my new producer, was at the studio. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you just don't know what those moments, what those connections will actually lead to. And when you take the time to stop telling yourself no and to start saying yes, and it's as easy as that, changing one word in your head, changing one mental thought in your head that stops you from living a life that you'll enjoy to waking up and being sad every day or being anxious every day. And that's like the most important step that anybody can take from themselves, you know?
I had someone tell me that I was like too obsessed with Griselda, the rap group. And they were right in the way that I loved them so much and I wasn't doing anything with it.
Right.
And now I went on tour with them. Like I got to travel with them with media. It's that thing. It's like, why wasn't I making any moves? I heard it from Theo Vaughn, but it's probably been said a lot. If you change a degree of an angle 1%, the end trajectory of that angle is forever changed. Like,
Yo, I'm sorry.
so if you
You're
change,
dropping so many gems on this show. Like, holy shit.
but if you change 1 degree every day,
It's facts.
If you change 1 degree every day, if you do one thing for yourself every day, Rome Street said this on my podcast. That's 365 things you did for your career at the end of the year.
Right.
You don't think that's going to change your trajectory?
Right. And it's like when people, like, it could sound cliche, but when you ask somebody, how did you become this? How did you do this? Like a famous athlete. How'd you become a famous athlete? And they tell you, I did it every single day. I was consistent and I never gave up. And every single person I have on the podcast in one way or another says the same thing, because if you give up, you will never know the end trajectory. If you don't change that point in time or that point in your line or whatever, you'll just never know what the result is.
It doesn't matter if it's art or it doesn't matter if you want to have a business.
100%.
If you have a boss, that's someone holding you accountable.
Yeah.
And you have money on the line, so of course you're going to stay consistent. You just have to make yourself your own boss. Like, you have to treat yourself like you're a hard-ass boss.
100%.
I let myself have fun.
Yeah.
But every day I'm doing... This morning, I was hungover.
Right.
I got lit last night.
Doesn't even drink, and the Stu got lit before my podcast.
Lit last
he can't
night.
even drink champagne with me.
I woke up hungover. I went back to bed for 2 hours. I woke up. I forced myself to like cut clips for the podcast, send a bunch of emails, book the podcast. When all I wanted to do was play video games and relax because I have a show tonight, like the rest of my day. But
100%.
you have to keep yourself accountable.
Yes, and the thing is, and I just want to like relate to people listening in my audience. Like, we all have different, options or ways you can make things happen or make your dreams happen. Right now, I'm still working a regular job Monday through Friday, and every weekend I'm recording. And like you said, like,
see, that's even more impressive. Like, that's like, impressive as fuck.
You're impressive as fuck. Hold up.
But I don't have the. I wish I could have the drive to do that, to like be able to be. Because money helps everything.
But it's so funny because I wish that I had the risk-taking skill set to be like, fuck this job. I'm going full-time Old Soul Young World. I don't care if I can't do some of the financial things I need to do. You know what I mean?
I also did work a full-time job. I was the marketing manager of a food chain.
Oh, shit.
And I was working 60 hours a week. And I was making really good money. And on Cape Cod. And I would still drive 2 hours each way every single night after 60-hour weeks every night to go to Boston to do open mics.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
And then I saved up enough money.
Right.
Probably 15 grand.
Yep.
I'm saying this number so people can really like, I shouldn't be saying it,
no, but
think
it's important for people to hear.
I saved to get up 15 grand. And then the pandemic hit, so I had unemployment. So of course I had that. But that money then allowed me to get to a point where it's like, okay, maybe I'm not making a lot, but I can make enough money that I can keep going. Like, I'll take this trip, and that'll hopefully get me whatever.
Exactly. And that leads to opportunities, and that leads to other things. And like, just to loop back around, it's like, like I said, I work Monday through Friday. This morning, when I woke up at like 6, and I was like, Jesse, you should go back to sleep. Like, you have 2 podcasts today, you're tired, whatever. I had cuts to clip. I needed to send stuff to people.
Clips to cut.
Did I say cuts to clip? I had clips to cut. You know, it's the shit. This is the second recording today, guys. Second bottle. But you know, like there was things to be done. If I'm staying sleeping, if I'm relaxing all the time, like, yeah, you should take time for your mental health and your body to relax and catch up. But if there's work to be done, like you said, you have to hold yourself accountable. So like people who work a full-time job and have their side business, you need to mentally understand that the effort that you put in when you're at work for your regular boss needs to match the energy that you put in with your own business, with your own ideas, with your own dreams at the end of the day. It needs to be equal or more. You know what I mean? Because if you're just putting all that into another business and you're giving nothing back to yourself, that can't grow.
I took 2 weeks to lay in bed and play PS5 after my birthday. I turned 20. I turned 25 July 17th.
You deserve that shit.
And for 2 weeks, I did nothing. And maybe I was a little depressed during it, but I'm now reinvigorated to go.
See?
Like I needed those 2 weeks to get hungry again.
Yes. And sometimes, and like you said, for a couple months you've been down. And I appreciate you even saying that because people would maybe look at your podcast, look at what you're doing, look at your comedy, be like, oh, Sam's so funny. He's like happy all the time.
I also never took any weeks off. Even when I say I took 2 weeks off, but I've never missed a week of releasing at least 2 episodes.
Oh shit, you release 2 episodes a week?
Before I was doing 3, but yeah, I do 2 episodes a week.
Wow, that's impressive. And that's a lot to keep up with. So in your spare time, it's like you need to make sure you're holding yourself to the responsibilities that you need to keep doing. And they do pay off. So I know that you told me on the phone, and hopefully we can say this on the podcast, but you're going to be hosting a pretty big event coming up.
Oh yeah, supply and demand. August 27th in Brooklyn. Tickets are actually almost sold out, so you should get tickets now because they will be sold out within like a week or 2.
Oh wow! Honestly, we might drop this in a week or 2. So sorry, guys.
You should look it up to see if it's sold out or not. It's like the biggest underground rap festival. It's based out of New York, but it's huge. Like it was started by Mark Rosado is his name. He has a amazing freestyle series on YouTube called Top Shelf Premium, where he has rappers come into his vintage clothing store and like freestyle, and he records it with a VCR tape. Oh shit! It's dope as fuck.
That's cool.
And he started this festival with Mayhem Loren, who's Action Bronson's right hand man, and they started this festival. And last year I went for the first time. And I was so nervous I couldn't even like talk to people.
Did you go to interview or just as like a fan?
No, I just went as a fan. And I saw
He's so
people
anxious.
like
He's like, I cannot speak right now.
I saw people like roam streets who have been on my podcast now, and I was too nervous to talk to him.
Wow.
So a year later I'm now hosting it, which is crazy to me.
That's fun.
Like I'm hosting. We got V Don who produced for everybody from Griselda, West Side Gun. Has a whole album with Dave East. He's doing a show with Willie the Kid, who's a legend. Willie the Kid has shit with Gucci Mane to Action Bronson. Like he's a fucking legend. There's The Cloth. There's a Kai Solo who I just saw. There's Umbrella Collective. There's a bunch of like famous producers. There's a bunch of clothing and artists.
And I mean, like you being the host of something so big like this with all these names, all these people, underground hip hop, all the way in New York. Coming from where you came from, like how does that feel for where you're at right now with your career and Bucked Up and just everything?
I like where I am. I was thinking about like I just hit 25, which my dad was like, "Oh, I had a weird 25." And I don't even think about an age like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, "Damn, when I was 16 and I got in that hockey accident, if I thought like where I am now, would you be happy with it?" And I'd be fucking more than happy with it. Like I'm 2 years in, like I've had people ask me, "Oh, I've had a podcast for 6 years. Like what do I do?" And it's like, I was doing it for 6 years, I would still do it, but it's like I'm very lucky to be in the position I am.
Yeah.
I can't even like think about it a little bit because I'm so hard on myself. Like I hate the podcasts, but I love them. Like
really?
But I can't like listen to myself talk. Like cutting clips is so hard for me. Like I think, oh, you sound like an idiot. You sound like all that stuff.
That's
like,
me, literally.
but there's another voice in my head that's like, you did all this shit in 2 years. But people don't realize that I've been doing improv since I was 16. Like,
Right.
all those years culminate into something better. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy to me. I'm very blessed that people respect me for who I am. I think that's the best thing. I decide to be myself 100%. And I think people see that I'm not trying to pose. I'm not trying to be anyone I'm not. And the respect I get from that's the most beautiful thing.
And that's the thing about you. I feel like you are genuine no matter who you're speaking to, no matter what your guest is, what type of setting you're in, what you're talking about. Like, you're always authentically Sam Buck. And like, even on the, we talked about, like, you get bucked up. Like, you be smoking before your episodes during them. Like, you stay true to who you are.
Yeah, people get so mad because they'll listen to my podcast without watching any other episodes and be like, this dude's so baked, he can't even do a proper interview. Like,
what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah, it's called bucked up. Like, I'm not giving a proper interview.
Wait, I'm sorry. In your t-shirt, is your head not like in the clouds?
Yeah, like I don't prepare any questions. I smoke with these dudes and just hope that a good conversation comes out of it. And most times it does, but sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just the way I can do 2 episodes a week. I don't mean to like change subjects.
Please go ahead.
Like, I made it as easy for myself as possible. I just have to show up. Such easy equipment set up. I don't have to prepare anything. It's just like, oh, I'm going to be myself and hopefully these people like me.
Right.
But if not, people enjoy when people don't like me on the podcast.
Either way, it's like a win-win.
Yeah, like people want to watch me
squirm. And do you feel like, and I'm sorry, like, I feel like you're genuine, like you're funny. Like, people would be like, oh, you're like a white boy funny. Like, you're kind of like a typical, like,
that's why
and I don't mean to say it like that because I'm not trying to box you in.
Festival. No.
But you're awesome.
I'm hosting this festival and most people there probably won't know who I am. I have a nice like cult following where people will know, but most of the people won't know. So I'm like, I hope I can get up there and win them over with my jokes before they judge me enough to like check out completely. Because there's a reason I'm hosting that festival, but a lot of people there don't know what that reason is.
Yeah, and then that's your opportunity to kind of get them on the bucked up board, and be like, yo, this is what we're about. Like, it's all about just being who you are. And I think that's kind of like something I mentioned earlier about people not really understanding why your show is labeled as a self-help podcast, but you just doing it in general. Every episode you putting out that you're being authentically, genuinely you, and just going to these places and using the equipment you have and doing the interviews you do and consistently, that right there is motivation.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also have to think about what fans are. Like, what are fans actually?
What are fans to you?
They're just normal people who are living their own lives. Like, and that's who you have to, that's why you go to these events. That's why, like the DJ Muggs event.
Yeah.
I met 3 people that I got to introduce myself to, and hopefully those 3 people subscribe and listen to it. Like,
exactly.
You have to put yourself in situations where normal people are going to see you. Mm-hmm. People who aren't trying to strive for an artistic goal. Just people who are living their lives, because that, at the end of the day, is who's going to be your fans and supporters.
I feel like as fans, quote unquote, what we all want is somebody that's relatable. Somebody that we can look at or watch or whatever and be like, yo, they went through the same thing as me. He's just a guy like I am, like making jokes, being his authentic self, being funny, and like getting recognized for it. So I have the ability to do the same. And the only thing that separates you from anybody else or me from anybody else is, like we said, the time and the consistency and knocking off all the other shit to keep
I just
going.
Spilled down my mouth.
Oh no, he trickled. Nobody's seen it though. Don't worry. Don't worry.
I do the one cam.
He's like, I need to call out my awkwardness. Hold
everything. My friend tossed me a lighter in the last episode, and I just missed it. It like hit my body, and it's one cam. I forgot.
You know what we're gonna do, Sam? That's the only clip I'm gonna put out from this episode. It's just gonna be you dribbling the drink on yourself and watch Bucked Up and watch Old Soul Young World. But so anyways, from, everything, staying motivated, what you've done, do you have like any advice to people, around our age, our generations or younger, who starting out in a very social media-esque, podcast-esque, etc. Based metaverse, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like, any advice going forward to young artists who might be looking to get into stand-up comedy or something else, or podcasting, or whatever it may be?
Yeah, think about when you're 40. Think about when you're 35. Would you rather waste your 20s having fun and then have to figure your shit out in your 30s? Or would you rather figure your shit out and work as hard as you can in your 20s and then enjoy the rest of your life?
Right.
Like,
100%.
yes, it's fun. Those are your young years where you look the best, but I'm enjoying everything I'm doing, and I'm going to be so happy that when I'm 30, I can look back and be like, damn, I have 10 years under my belt.
Right.
Then when I'm 30 and being like, damn, I just got to get shit started right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what motivates me to just keep going, is that the younger and the earlier you really start, the more time you have under your belt. Because you hear people saying, I've been doing it for 15 years. People you look up to, like people who actually have something. And that's because they started 15 years before. Like,
Right.
They had to make that decision themselves.
Yep.
Everyone has a point in their life, if you're creative, where you have to take yourself seriously. 100%.
Or you take
Like,
it as a hobby. It's either like you're going to take it
Yeah.
serious, or you're going to kind of let it fall.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you really want to do it now. Do it tonight. Do it next hour. Like,
Yes.
do it now. Do whatever you can, just one thing, because that's the only way you can start.
Facts. And once you start, like, at least for me, like, don't look back. You know what I'm saying? Don't keep questioning yourself. Don't keep going back and comparing yourself. Like, you are working your way forward, and as long as you're moving forward, you're not moving backward. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So that's it. That's
And
the only
everything
way.
will pay off. Everything will pay off in the end. I've had things happen to me when I was 10 years old that have helped me with the podcast now.
See?
Like, that's crazy. Like,
Well, and then, like, even so, to go back to, like, your hockey accident, like, at the time, you had no idea at that moment that all of that, all the pain, the suffering, the concussion, you know, having to be in the dark by yourself, all that was going to lead to you in the future being able to incorporate your dreams of hip hop, of smoking cannabis, of talking to people.
I like to say cannabis. That's very fancy.
Isn't that
That's
fancy?
very
I didn't want to say the
fancy.
W word. That gives it a bad connotation. Weed, pot. The old people were
My
like, you
mom
smoke
loves
the pot.
saying pot. Yeah.
I told my mom, I was like, enough with that. It's either weed or cannabis. Like, we got to bring you up to scale. All right, lady?
Cannabis sounds old as fuck.
Yes. But, you know, in along with that, with what you do, you kind of use cannabis. You're an advocate for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not very much of a drinker, as you said.
Yeah, I am an advocate for it, and I'm not.
You're like, I'm more of just a pothead. But
Exactly.
you can call me
I don't want to.
an
I
advocate
don't
if you
want to be like, yeah. If you don't want to smoke, don't smoke. Like, I've never done coke in my whole. Never done coke. I'm not. You don't have to.
But he does the shrooms.
Yes.
I'm calling you out.
People who have done coke, and I'm around it a lot for my lifestyle, like, thank God you never did it. Like, don't ever do it. And that's not how I feel about weed, but it's like, if you don't want to do it,
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have, I know so many people that weed hasn't helped them at all, has hindered them. So, like, you have
Yeah.
to go with what you want.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome too, though, knowing, like, you being an example for, like, do whatever fits you. Do
Because
whatever's
recently
best
I've been
for
thinking
you.
about, should I take a break? Should I? And then there's points where I don't. But it's, yeah, you have to really give yourself checks.
Yes.
Like, every month or so, give yourself a check. What am I doing? Am I doing things right? Am I doing things wrong?
Right. And a mental checkup, or just like a life checkup. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Just keeping yourself on, you know, a track of, like, where you're going. And like I said, there's small goals and then there's big goals. Start setting the big goals for yourself and see if, like, the path that you're moving in is working towards that. Because if it is, you're probably going in the right direction.
My grandma came into I was celebrating my birthday up with my mom and my grandma at her house. And my grandma came into my room and she was like, you know, I'm really proud of everything you're doing. But if you don't want to do it, like, if you're tired, you know, you don't have to.
Oh my gosh.
And at first I was like, I didn't say I was mad. Like,
Yeah.
it really got me. Like, of course I didn't take it, but, like, that night I'm like, why the fuck would she Like, why would she even say that to
want me
me?
to
Like,
quit.
yeah. Like, I really did get mad. And then I thought, if I can't ask myself that question and go, no, I do want to do it. Like, if I see that question and I push it away, then of course I'm going to give up at some point. But if I can be faced with that question and go, no, I do want to keep doing it, you have to give yourself those checks. Like,
100%.
that shit really, like, you should.
It's almost like use it for motivation.
It's the opposite of what we were saying with the friends. But like, if those people tell you not to do it and it makes you stop, then it wasn't meant for you.
Yeah.
You have to be able to see those questions and say, no, this is my answer, and move forward.
Yep.
Because the more you push it away, the more anxious you're going to be that one day you're going to have to face that question.
Facts. And like, you know, I really relate to that because like my mom, since I've started the podcast, like I said, I work a regular job. So she's like, Jesse, like you should rest today. Why don't you take a Saturday off? Why don't you not record today? And I'm like, do you know the like ongoing effects it takes for me to like take a Saturday off, to not record, to like, it stresses me out more to take time off of doing that than it does to like keep going, because going with it, being consistent, doing this podcast, speaking out, meeting people like yourself who like are like-minded like me, who let me know like I'm moving on the right path, like we're all in unison trying to become better people, like that shit makes me feel better. You know, taking the time off, yeah, maybe my physical body will get some rest, but my mental will be going crazy.
And that's
so
the thing.
it's like,
you can do one thing. If you take your rest day, still send an email.
Right.
Still cut one clip.
Like I feel like legit no days off. Like when you are doing something, when it's 100% you, and like I feel like, you know, because you're a solo host, and like a lot of people who do podcasts, they usually have a team or a co-host or anchors or like this and that. When it's really you keeping the shit going, making the emails, doing the booking, doing the social media, all of it, it falls on you. That's your responsibility to know, okay, when I need a break, but when it's time to like fucking work.
I don't have time to
I don't get time for that shit.
I'll take a break. Well, that's what I was saying.
I'll take a break when I die.
I'd rather work hard through my 20s. Like, I'll drive to, I'll get, and then enjoy it later.
Yeah.
When the time for me to take a break comes, I'll know.
Facts.
Like, I'll know, oh shit, I just got this big ass check from something.
Yup.
I can finally relax for a week.
Yeah.
And I'll still be cutting clips that week.
Right.
But I'll be able to.
But it will feel a little better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because money does run it.
Yeah.
Money, we were talking about this beforehand. Like, money should not be the
factor.
There's two things. I've been talking to the first point is getting a fan base.
Yes.
And you should not worry about money. You should get a fan base. But then the second step, and that's the even harder step, is making money.
Right.
And don't jump to that step first.
Mm-hmm.
Please, everybody, don't. You have to get a fan base first, and then you have to learn how to make money from it. But that making money from it's even harder than getting the fan base in the first place.
Because that's when you're taking the art form and making it to the business aspect. And it's like that, you actually just led me into a question I want to ask you, but we talked about, you know, a sponsorship that you had. I think you said Manscaped, but like just in general, if that's the only sponsorship or if there's other ones, like how did you kind of get into the lane of like starting to realize like, oh, okay, I need to reach out to some sponsors, or like I do need some funding for this, or figuring out, do you ask guests to pay for interviews? Do you not? Like, where is that line for you with Bucked Up right now?
With sponsorships, I want to shout out, there's a store, Exotic Roots in Rochester. And they were one of my first big sponsors. And they sponsored me for weeks, and they gave me for months. And the money off of that allowed me to realize I could make real money off the podcast. If you watch, there's like a month, like probably 4 months, 5 months, where their ads are on every episode.
Okay.
And I love them.
And was that based off you just like, hey, Exotic,
They hit me
whatever?
up on Instagram one day told me to come out to Rochester, and I did. And I just loved everyone there. Like, Rochester is like one of the cities that I look at as home because of Exotic Roots.
Okay.
Like everyone there.
And is that I'm sorry, is that a dispensary?
It's a hydroponic store, so you can learn how to grow. They have grow materials. They also have clothing and
Very cool.
everything, events and shit,
Ooh.
art. It's an art gallery. But I learned that I can make money off of it. And I've never accepted money for an interview, but my mind is kind of like shifting on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, that's kind of selling out. I could see people saying that, and I'll be honest about it. But is it more selling out than if I have to get a normal job?
That's a good question.
Like,
I agree.
that's selling out too. I have to go put my whole time and effort into something else that I have another boss. It's another person's dream. I'm living another person's dream.
100%.
It doesn't even matter if it's corporation. I'm living that CEO's, helping him live his dream instead of I have a chance to make money living my dream.
Right.
And it might be looked at as bad to some people, but it also wouldn't, because then even if they gave me money, I'm still highlighting an artist. I still have a fan base that like is going to watch that artist, and I'm going to give them the best interview I can, because I don't interview people. I just have conversations.
Right.
So if you're a good conversationalist, I'm going to have a good conversation with you.
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking about in my mind for like the next step to make a lot of money. Do I make money for someone else, or do I make money for myself?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the questions like we all come from, whether you're, an artist or a model or a podcaster or whatever you are, you get to that point where it's like you said, do I take this serious? Do I make this into the future, or do I kind of put it aside as a hobby? And in which way is it okay to do that? And I think with like podcasting or conversating or whatever we're doing, there's a very open market right now where it's not like, here's a pamphlet on how to get sponsors, or here's a guideline of when you can start asking for money and how much you should ask for and like who you should ask for. It's like, you really have to learn and fail or succeed to figure out how to do that
100%.
With your marketing. Yeah, because we all have a different fan base. So,
yeah, and you have to. Yeah, we all have you have to find what you think people are gonna like. Who's gonna give you money?
Yeah,
like who?
Yeah,
like you have to figure that out for yourself.
And like when we both started this, it's like I don't know if you ever thought you would get to the point where you're like, oh shit, I'm considering money. I'm considering like getting money for talking to people, because like I'm at the similar point that you're at, and it's like, like holy shit, like.
But if you can make the same amount of money doing that you do at your day job now, is it the same thing? Famous artists do commissions. That's how they make a lot of their money. They're not, they could do a gallery and sell their own art, but a lot of money they make is off commissions.
Yeah.
Rappers especially, make most of their money off of features.
Yeah.
Like,
Correct.
That might not even be an artist you love, but if they're going to pay you 10 grand to do 16 bars on a song, you're not going to take that?
Right.
That's how I'm starting to think about it. But on podcasts, and I know this, I've said on podcasts I will never take money for an interview. Mm-hmm. I've said that. That's out in the ether. Like, so but do I work at fucking Subway?
I was gonna say,
if I can make as much money interviewing people as I would at Subway, if I can make, I don't want to say numbers, a certain amount of money that's more than minimum wage at a 40-hour job, doing what I want, then who cares if I sell a little bit of it if I still own 100% of it?
Right. And if you're remaining, I think the whole point is authentic. If you're not, I think selling out would be if you're having somebody pay for you and they're changing the whole brand. They're like dressing you up, trying to make you.
I've been offered that. I've been offered a lot of money, more money than someone who has a really good job makes in a year.
Wow.
I was offered that, but I would have lost the artistic control.
So what would it have made you change the show over to if you would have accepted that deal?
I would talk to people that they wanted me to talk to. I would promote things that they wanted me to promote, which I might have loved. I might have liked those things a lot, but it would still be their vision instead of my vision.
Exactly.
And so it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for it, because everyone has a struggling time. I would much rather look back at this in 10 years and be like, damn, I was struggling that hard, but now look at me, than like, oh damn, I did that thing then. And now look at where, like...
Yeah, and like, what did you say earlier? Like, the universe tests you. And like, I've always said that to my friends, my family, whenever I'm trying to do something important, when I'm following my path, when I'm trying to like be consistent, be a good person, you get these things that come in your life where it's like, how bad do you want this? Will you keep going even though I'm already putting this in front of you, even though it's going to make it harder for you, it's going to make you maybe more stressed out or this and that. Like, the fucking month I decided to start coming up here and recording, which we just started recording here in December, within the first early weeks of January, I totaled my car on the highway on ice on the way up here to do an interview that my guest was already at the studio waiting for me. And like, I got here, I called my producer and we were talking like, what do I do? Like, I'm in total shock. Car spun out on the highway, hit a divider wall. I should have died. Like, so mentally I'm processing that I even just got out of this car unhurt. And then I had been trying to book this guest for months, right? Months. We couldn't figure out a date. He was finally here waiting for me. It was so important. Shout out Stiggity Stacks. You're the dopest. But you know, when I got here, I was like, yo, we're still gonna do the interview. I've been waiting for this. I'm already prepared. I'm already dressed, even though I was just crying on the highway with my car totaled. Like, it was that test of life where it's like, how bad do you want this, Jesse? Are you gonna do this today? Are you gonna let this affect you that like, you're not going to come up next weekend for the interview you have scheduled? No, I fucking took my mom's car through my PTSD, my hands sweating on the wheel the whole way up, gripping the steering wheel to get here and do my interviews, to do my podcast, to keep this shit going, because at the time, it was the only thing I wanted. Do you know what I mean? I loved it so much. It was like, I will take that risk, universe. Fuck you and that car accident. I'm still going to do it. But it's those moments, like the moments with hockey, that it's like, which crossroad will you take, you know, and where will it end up? And it's like, just knowing at those times when it gets the hardest, that's when the greatest is going to come. You know what I mean? When it's the hardest, when you're at your lowest and you can push through that shit, that's when the shine comes. That's when you can shine, because you already know what it feels like to be low.
I always used to think about how The Weeknd said he used to be homeless. And everybody looks at that
fire.
and is like, that's so amazing that he was homeless and now he's The Weeknd. But when he was homeless, no one was looking at him like that.
Exactly.
No one was like, they were probably like, look at this idiot living in his car.
Yeah,
fucking,
look at him
like,
trying to sing. He's never going to make it, this and that. Like,
that's it. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, and that's all we can do is really keep pushing. So, you know, Sam, just wondering, are there any future plans for Bucked Up, for, you know, your own events going forward, your own comedy shows or anything like that?
I've actually done 2 Bucked Up events and they both sold out.
What?
I did one
When
in
was
New York
this?
and one in Philly.
Oh, shit.
I did a comedy show in Philly, probably a month and a half ago. And then I did a rap and comedy show in Brooklyn that sold out.
Wow.
I love the events. I'm a one-man. I have my 2 producers, Shamil Kumar and Brianna Woodward. I have to shout them out.
Shout out.
That's
They're amazing.
fine.
They're 2 of my best friends, and they do amazing work for me. But day to day, they have their own shit too. Like
Right.
day to day, I do everything myself. I book my stand-up myself. I book the podcast myself. I cut my clips myself. I do the interviews, set up, all that myself. So booking events is so hard. And I love it. But it's just one of those things. It's like another thing I have to add.
Yeah.
So I want to do it, but right now I don't have anything in the plans for like one coming up. But I have a couple people who've reached out who want to help me with it. So hopefully something will
Okay,
be
so
coming
they
soon.
got to stay tuned, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll see in the future.
But I do love the events. Like, I love I had a comedy show and then a rap show right after it. And that was like the most fun shit in the whole world.
Oh my gosh, like the
everyone
dynamic is so opposite, but
Yeah,
it like
'cause
actually fits so well.
At first, everyone was relaxed, laughing. And then they get to like chill, smoke, drink. And then they get to have a concert.
Right.
Because the other way around wouldn't work.
At the same venue, like it was back to back.
Mhm.
Oh Shit, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Shout out, or I guess the venue's no longer there, but shout out Deuce Ellis.
Hey.
He helped me out with that.
That's
Yeah.
dope. That's dope. And like being different, being Sam Buck, from where you came from, growing up, everything that you've been through. I feel like through my podcast, like I capitalized off weirdoism, I guess you could say, like just being different, being unique. People when I was younger telling me I'm an old soul, telling me like, oh, you don't like same thing. Like your sister said, like you don't fit here. Like you don't really fit in with this era type shit. Like that's like how I felt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of like within your realm of who you are, what does it mean to you to be an old soul in a young world, or just like an old soul at all?
I used to be an old soul so much. Like
He
when
said
I was a
used
kid,
to be. He's
yeah,
changed his soul.
I was.
He has changed his soul
When I was
level.
a kid, all I wanted to do was talk to adults. And I still do talk to adults, but like I embraced who I am, and it's so much different than that. Like old people probably hate me when look at people have been watching. They can see my full outfit and how I usually like reek a weed walking into a bill. I'll be the nicest person in the whole world that you'll
Such
talk
a
to.
sweet demeanor.
But like old people definitely have like a certain opinion of me when they see me now.
Right.
And so that is a little. But I'm an old soul because I just. Old people believe in themselves, I guess, is the best way I can put it. That's what I mean about wasting your 20s or wasting your 30s. I'm an old soul because I won't waste my 20s. Like,
right. Yeah.
old soul is someone who's not going to waste their time, that wants it. They are on a path and they're going to keep pushing forward.
Facts.
And I mean that when when you're a kid, you want to talk to adults because you want to learn more about life.
Right.
You're not talking to you. You see kids and you're like, I don't understand these people. They're talking about dumb shit that I don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to learn more about what this is that we're in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what my version of an old soul is, and why I think I am, is because everyone I talk to, I'm 25 now. Like, most of the people I interview are older.
Yeah.
And my analytics say my average listeners are 35 to 45.
Wow.
Or it's 25 to 45 is like the main. And those are all older than me. Like, that's weird to me that most of my listeners are like grown-ass adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's okay, I'm an old soul because I want more. I want to keep learning the secrets to life.
Yeah, 100%.
That's fun.
And like even though maybe you don't see, because I feel like you do have like a young soul energy, like you're very like, with it and hip and like cool and like whatever, but like on that other level, like you carry with you so much inner knowledge. And I feel like just you as a person, like the fact that I even am with you sitting here and like you telling me about all these things you've done in places you've traveled and people you've interviewed, being 25, being so young. It's like the actual motivation and consistency it took you in the last few years to get to where you're at. Some people throughout their whole entire lives until they're like 75 will never have that drive or motivation to push them to do the things that they want to do. They'll just talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's the huge difference. People who talk about what they want to do and people who do what they want to do.
It's like old people always say, like, I wish I did. Sad old people. Sad old people always say, I wish I did more. Like, I wish I said more. I wish I did more experiences. I hear that, and I'll do anything. I'll say yes to anything that keeps me safe. And I'll move forward because, like, I don't want to be a sad old person. Mm-hmm. I want to be an excited old person that right now I have lived more experiences that people have in their entire life. And think about that then exponentially when I'm old. Like, I want to look back and be like, damn, look at all I did.
That shit was so fulfilling.
Like, and I've had the podcast for 2 years.
Yeah, right.
That's what I mean
this
about
is a
starting
baby,
young. That's what I
like-
mean about starting as young as you can.
Yep.
Because look at everything you can do in 2 years.
Right.
I went from a nobody open mic comedian who had nothing going for him to like where I am now. I've been on a Conway song. Like, I could never get into Harvard University, and they featured me in their magazine, wrote an article about me. Like,
That's
oh wait, I do have a funny story before we wrap up about that.
Please.
Oh my God! So I got interviewed by Harvard to be in the Harvard Crimson, the oldest running like magazine.
Yeah.
They did a feature on me. It's called "Comedian Sam Buck is Friends with Your Favorite Rapper." That's the name of the article.
Sorry, how did they find out about you? Can we just like...
I have a cult following at Harvard, I guess.
You have a Harvard cult following?
Yeah, I guess there's a small section of Harvard that really likes my podcast.
Shit,
so
you're going to be the guest speaker at graduation next year?
Funny. Well, this is the thing, is when they interviewed me, I told the interviewer asked me, what was the thing that I was like what moment was the coolest for me?
Yeah.
And I talked about doing mushrooms with Danny Brown and Hannibal Buress on Thanksgiving.
What?
Like, that was the coolest moment
you said
for
that
me.
in your Harvard interview?
Yeah, I said that in the Harvard interview.
Oh, shit.
And they didn't publish the article for 3 months.
What?
I'm like, they're never really. I shouldn't have told that story. I literally was like, they're never gonna release this article. I shouldn't have told that story. I fucked up. And then finally one day they released it like 3 months later, and they don't mention that in the article. But I was
they were going back and forth trying to figure out how to handle it.
I was like, thank
they were like,
God.
we did not expect this young white boy to say that.
Because I still had the interview, like that. No one will take that from me.
Facts.
But to have the actual article is so different.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm so happy that they published it, but I was really worried that they weren't going to publish
but see,
it.
that's the shit. Even when you're like talking to Harvard, when you're talking be your authentic you, like talk about that shit.
I'll tell you, I did a huge dab right before the interview too.
You're the most ballsiest. Like, I get nervous to come on my own podcast smoking. Like, and I smoke all the time. And like, I don't.
Did a huge ass dab.
Look at you.
And it's on Zoom. It was on Zoom. So the guy like turns on the camera. I'm like, like, you know, a dab gets you. And I'm like, hey. I was like,
the voice changes. It's like a different. I am Sarah Buck. Yo, you kill me. That's amazing. That should be at the top of your interview experiences because that's badass.
I like to have crazy stories. That's what I mean about being an old person. I can't wait to look back and be like, I was stupid as fuck.
Yo,
like,
whoever your grandkids are some lucky ass grandkids because they gonna have some good stories. I'm just gonna say that.
I do. The Harvard article was a great, because now my grandma has something that's not.
Yeah.
Look, my grandson smoked weed with this famous rapper. Like, she can't show anyone.
Is your grandma
my
your
stuff.
number one fan too? Because my grandma like has my shit on her tablet.
See, my grandma, she'll watch the Instagram reels, which will still upset her, but she like, I feel like your grandma can like your podcast. It's really hard for my grandma. I feel like shit just
goes over her head. She's like 93, so she's like...
See, my grandma's with it, and like, she gets what I'm saying, and she's like, yikes. You know?
She's like, can we tone it down just a bit?
Yeah, like, I'll post crazy, like...
Oh, I've seen some of your clips.
Some of my stand-up clips that are like sex stories, like pretty vulgar sex stories. And my grandma will be like liking it just because she wants to give me the like, but she like will call me and be so mad.
That is so funny.
Yeah, my grandma supports me 100% and loves it, but she can't watch it because that would just...
I feel it, but you know, she can read the articles, so she's good.
See, she has the article.
You know,
whenever she wants to, she can send that to her friends. They can have a great time being proud of me, but they don't have to watch, right?
For real.
And my mom's a teacher, like, if I always think about that, like people just Googling my name.
Like if somebody happens to come across you.
There's videos of me just tripping on mushrooms with rappers. Like there's literally like videos of me so baked that I can't think, or talking about the stupidest shit in the world.
Yes.
Or like a bit about going on a first date to a strip club. Which is so funny because a girl brought me on the first date to that strip club I have the bit about, but then I brought a girl.
Wait, Somebody brought you to the same strip club?
No, a different strip club. But a girl brought me on a first date to a strip club, and then I brought a girl on a first date.
You're like, you know what? I'm taking your idea. I'm gonna take my next date there.
But like, my grandma has to watch that shit, or my mom's friends will Google it and have to see that.
Oh my gosh! But that's what it is. What's makes the show and what makes you by staying no matter what. Who watches it? That's who you're gonna be.
Now I can be like, I got Harvard to interview me. I'll talk about getting my dick sucked on the Mayflower if I want.
That's fine.
Wait, is that a true story?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yo,
two times, two different girls.
I'm sorry. How did you? Okay. No, I don't think we can get into that. I don't think we can get. My audience is a little different than
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
But listen up. If you want to know how Sam Buck got sucked off twice on the Mayflower, go check out his podcast.
This is what I mean about people Googling me. This is the type of shit they have to find.
I gotta fill my cup up to that one because that shit was lit. Oh my gosh, Sam. But you are an amazing person. You're an amazing soul. You are honestly so fucking real and genuine. It's like having this conversation with you, quote unquote, that was supposed to be an interview. Like, I feel like we've just been chopping it up. And like, that's how your guests must feel. Like, y'all are friends because what you bring with you from what you see online, guys, to what you see on the podcast to a stand-up is what you get in person. Like, it's never like, I don't know, different. Do you have a switch where you're ever different than this?
No, I try to be myself all the time. My only switch now is where I turn off. Like, if there's a day or a night where I just want to like smoke and not talk to people, like,
that's important.
Yeah, like I hope. Yeah, I try not to be rude to people in public, but some nights I'm just like, yeah, of course there's a switch where I'm just like down or chill or don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
But I try to be myself in every situation 100%.
Facts.
But, everyone gets those moments where they're just like,
yeah, we need to be within ourselves.
yeah, 100%.
That's fine.
And I want to give you the chance to let people know, Sam, if they want to check out any of your stand-up comedy, any of Bucked Up Podcast, anything that you're doing in the future that you've done, et cetera, where can they check you on social media?
Follow me on Instagram at Bucked Up Podcast. Subscribe to me on YouTube at Bucked Up with Sam Buck. That's where you'll see everything. Come see me do comedy. If you like rap or not, I'm having, I can't give the guess, but I have some pretty big like indie rock bands coming on.
We love it.
So,
That's fine.
yeah, listen to Bucked Up if you enjoyed this conversation.
And other than that, guys, Sam is amazing with himself. Everything that he's doing is just so authentic, so genuine, so unique. And that's what we're about here on Old Soul Young World. Taking shit that you love and making it your own, going against the grain, not having the 9-to-5, making your own fucking 9-to-5. Make it your own, be your own boss, do your own shit, make it work how you want, but don't ever give up. Don't ever give in and always keep going. And make sure you get bucked up with Sam Buck on the Bucked Up Podcast every week. And make sure you guys tune in with me, Jessie Ellie, here on Old Soul Young World with your favorite host next week.